Well, hello. I'm here with Doug to talk about a few technical stories. And the first one I thought was pretty nice. Um, the Sun, a British sort of tabloid magazine, has got an article which I think was on some paywalled place originally. But what happened is, I think we talked about it last time. Apple rushed out an emergency update to add this like anti-theft feature to your phone. And I said, apparently they think there's an attack where people just grab the phone out of your hand. And then this guy claims he does this attack and explains in more detail how it works. He said you go up to somebody, typically a young person, like in their 20s, on like a train or BART or something, and you tell them, I've got drugs and I'll sell you drugs, but you have to give me your phone so I can type in my number or something. So you get their phone, then you lock it by accident. You say, oh, I need to unlock it. Give me your PIN. And he said with practice, he was able to very quickly um, change the iCloud to recognize his face and then pass the phone to an accomplice, and they will then use the phone to empty out your bank account and everything. So he explains in detail how he did this all the time, this sort of a social engineering trick, and they say this is why Apple added that feature. So I had a lot more information here than I had imagined. Said he stole hundreds of iPhones around Minneapolis, Minnesota, and explains how he used it to clean out your bank account. So,
So let's go through this again. Slow that down. That was a little quick.
well, he gets
So, so somebody's standing on the street. They have their phone.
well, he says I can get you some drugs. I
Oh, I see.
your phone. So you get to trick someone with some story into handing you the phone. Then he locks it. Then he says, "Oh, it locked. You have to give me the pin." So they give him the pin.
But that's mistake number one
Oh, cool.
is
Well,
giving, of
sure. It's
course.
like you never con an honest man. Handing your phone to anybody was mistake number.
Yeah,
Then,
yeah, yeah.
but you want the drugs. So now when he says, "Oh, it locked. I need to unlock it," you give him the pin because he's doing something for you. And then what he does is he goes to iCloud and switches the face recognition to recognize his face.
So he quickly does a face scan to
Apparently,
register it.
apparently so.
That
That surprised
takes,
me. I thought that took longer. But anyway, this
yeah, okay.
and then they're able to clean out your account and lock you out. And then he passes the phone to an accomplice who runs away, steals the phone, and then they just now have your PIN, so they unlock the phone, wipe it clean, and sell the phone for parts when they're done. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so
So,
steal the money out of your account, and they sell your phone, and you of course can't get back into your account to complain for a while, and so they get away with it.
huh.
And by starting it off with an illegal transaction, of course, you're probably not likely to go to the cops or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
it's got a
yeah.
lot of good features.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, and Apple has a good solution, right? Making it just so that it's much harder to change important things like your iCloud account without biometric authentication first or something. That's what they did. So even if somebody has your phone and it's unlocked, they can't do important things without re-unlocking it with like your PIN or biometrics.
Yeah, but the person already has the PIN and has already set up biometrics.
That's true, but I think after you turn on this new Apple feature, they wouldn't be able to do that without verifying the previous biometrics or something like that.
I see. Okay.
The idea. It
Okay.
sounded pretty good. Sounded like their defense would help. Anyway, I
Okay.
thought that was educational. And you have long COVID and physics girl, which is one story, not two, right?
Yeah, so this is one story. So a lot of people may know Physics Girl from PBS, and she has done a lot of YouTube videos along with some other people. Vertasium, Smarter Every Day are some of the shows that are very popular. She was focused on pretty much women in science, but she has a lot of very good videos, has a large following. So in May of 2022, she got married.
Hmm.
And in July, so think about that, from May to July, that's only 2 months, she was reported to have long COVID. And she was hospitalized in March 2023. And she's been bedridden ever since.
Uh,
And she is in very bad shape. It sounds like she's not improving. But in March of 2023, she was hospitalized, and the she symptoms are like chronic fatigue syndrome. And her health is not improved as of December right now, 2023. So this long COVID, I trust her as not being um, so I trust her as being somebody that actually has this disease and
Oh,
not claiming she has the
oh
disease.
yeah, I never doubted him much. I mean, I
Yeah,
remember toxic
yeah.
shock and chronic fatigue, and people pretended these things didn't exist until they realized people don't make up stuff like that as much as you might think. And there's a lot of evidence of long COVID. It's not very common, but some people really do get sick essentially forever.
No, right. Exactly. Exactly.
And it's
And
very poorly understood why. I've seen arguments say
yeah,
it's actually a blood disease or that it actually attacks different organs. Like the one that bothered me is brain fog. A bunch of people get just sort of confused, like dementia, where they can't concentrate
right.
on things, and that can persist for a really long time. That's the one that I said, boy, I really wouldn't like that.
But does that go away slowly or
Most long COVID things go away in a few
yeah.
months, but some of them just go for longer and maybe forever.
Yeah. And I guess sense of smell is another one that people lose that and all of a sudden it returns.
Yep, it just seems to be doing random damage to the body of random severity and random organs. Might
Yeah.
really do something terrible that won't come back.
Yeah. So anyway, she's still not recovered. She's far from being recovered. And she has a GoFundMe or a fundable page that
Mhm.
people are helping her out. And the interesting thing is she feels really guilty for not being able to produce videos. She feels she's let her Patreon audience down.
Just trying to fix the focus on my kid.
Yeah.
If they
Yeah.
wonders what I'm doing. Well, I think I've had issues like that, and I think that is just part of the disease. When I get sick and I feel
Yeah.
miserable, one possible emotional response is you start feeling guilty.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's just part of being sick. You're unhappy and you can't do what you normally do, and your life is just not much fun. And
You're
if
dedicated.
yeah, and if you're the kind of person that blames yourself for things, then you'll blame yourself for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, very sad. I've been following her, hoping she'd improve,
Yeah.
but
There's a lot.
unfortunately, not yet.
I see a lot of medical articles about people that are trying to find causes and treatments, but it's, unclear. I think the problem is it's not one disease. It's like cancer. There's a lot of things that can happen after you get COVID.
Yeah.
There's not like
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
thing and you one fix. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. What else do you have today?
Then let's see, this one here, the skyhook. Too bad Caitlin's not here. Now, you've heard about space elevators for a long time. I think
Right.
I gather them, I've had them, and they're science fiction. You need to have a cable that can be like 10,000 miles long and hold up its own weight, and there's no possible material that could do that. If you could have that, then you could have a space elevator. What these guys say is even without having that material, you could take the satellites that are being abandoned. There's some heavy satellites in orbit, like the ISS will be just a big piece of space junk pretty soon. And they say if you have a heavy satellite in orbit, you could have a rope, a relatively short rope, like just a few miles long, and you could use it to boost things up. So you could, instead of having a rocket ship take you all the way out of the Earth, you could just have a plane that flies pretty high and then hook onto a rope and get lifted up by swinging around.
Wait,
And
wait, wait, wait. Run this by me again.
they call it a sky hook. What you do
Yeah.
is you take a massive object like a satellite,
Okay.
a cord on it that's maybe a few miles long, and now you fly up and hook on the cord, and it turns around, swinging you up higher.
So wait, what planes do we have that could reach a satellite other
Oh,
than space shuttle?
it would be something like the space shuttle, but they say this would be like much cheaper than a rocket that can fly all the way up because it doesn't
I
really.
see. I see.
And then they said, this, therefore, what you're doing is you're stealing some momentum from that orbiting piece of space junk. And therefore,
Right.
this enough times the orbit would decay and it would fall down. But what you do is you use it in reverse also. So to get back to the Earth, you hook it and then slow down the thing to move it down here. And that puts the satellite back up again. So if you take an equal number of trips down and up, it won't decay the orbit. And they say we should do this, and it would be cheap and possible and be much more environmental and much cheaper than the process of building rockets that have so much fuel they can actually blast all the way out. And especially if you think about things like a trip to Mars, This is really awful because you have to move not just the people, but all the food and water they need.
Right.
So now you have to have this ridiculous huge rocket to lift all that stuff out of gravity. And see, this would be a much, much more efficient way to move stuff out. So it's an interesting article. I don't know how practical it is, but they're probably right. And this is kind of we're doing this. NASA is going to put a base on the moon as a staging area for the trip to Mars. And in the same spirit, having these orbital things, which are sort of way stations, you need to have a more efficient process of getting off the Earth and getting back down to Earth. And this might be useful. They haven't done it yet, but it's been a proposal floating around.
All right. So the two things I want to bring up
Yeah.
first is spin launch. I'd like to know where they are.
What's spin?
And you don't know about spin launch?
I,
Okay. So let
I think I
me,
saw this. They just rotate something and take off
yeah, yeah,
like a
yeah.
slingshot.
It, yeah, it's a circular slingshot, if you will.
I did see like a demonstration of that or something. Yeah, I don't know what became of that.
Yeah, I don't know what's become of that, but they did do a couple launches, I believe. But again, they've kind of faded into history.
Well, this is kind of the point of Elon Musk, SpaceX, right? Instead of having NASA do everything the government way, private companies will start finding cheaper, more efficient ways to get to space. So it's good that they're trying. And so far, SpaceX is the one that won, but there are others.
Yeah, yeah, there are others. And the other one that was somebody brought up is why are we staging on the moon? That makes no sense at all.
It would make more
And
sense to be just in orbit. Yeah.
yeah, and the reason it makes no sense is because you have a massive amount you have to accelerate, then you have to decelerate, bring it to a stop on the moon.
Well, the reason to do it is because there are
Yeah,
actually resources on the moon. If there really is water and metal and stuff on the moon, then you can have a permanent colony there that's self-sustaining, and you don't have to haul up all the food and air and everything. That's the idea, I think.
I see, I see.
But
But
it's
you're right. It would be better.
just have an orbital station.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you would think so.
And
Most
and
of
the
there are actually resources on the moon that make it self-sustaining. If you could make fuel on the moon from the resources that are
right.
their plan, then that would make it more understandable why you're willing to fall down that gravity well and dig back out of it again.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All right. So it'll be interesting. I'm skeptical. Call me a
Yeah,
skeptic on
yeah, I'm
that
kind
one.
of skeptical too, because I'm just used to the old space elevator, which it requires impossibly strong materials. And I'm wondering if this wouldn't also require impossibly strong materials to actually accomplish enough of this to do any good.
Yeah. And I think haven't we hit that limit with elevators in the Middle East that you there's no cable that's large enough for what's the tallest building, some of the tallest buildings in the
Like
world.
100 stories or something.
Yeah, in other words, the cable is just so massive that you can't pull the car up.
Yeah, I'm unaware if elevators have hit it, but certainly it would happen. Of course, the solution is to not use a cable, just have like a ratchet climbing up on the inside.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
for a space elevator, these things you really need a cable, and it really needs to be long and strong. And I'm skeptical.
yeah, I am too.
Yeah, all right,
All right, now that the holidays are over, I got another story for you.
all right, now,
And these are music royalties,
yeah.
especially for Christmas songs. And if you notice, you go into a
Most,
lot of these,
wait a minute. Most Christmas
yeah.
songs are from centuries ago, like Silent Night and stuff. They can't be owned by anybody anymore, are they?
Well, you have like Frank Sinatra, you have the Beach Boys, you
Oh, if you
have
want to
Burl
play that
Ives.
specific recording, sure.
Yeah, all of those recordings, if you
Okay.
notice, you go to the stores, those are the only songs that you hear when at Christmas time. And why do they play those specific songs over and over again? Because they're royalty free.
Those particular recordings, oh, they're old enough. They've
They're old enough, yeah,
yeah, well,
yeah. Or they purchased the rights to them years and years and years ago.
well, sure. Well,
So
yeah.
yeah. And I don't know if you've ever been to Orchard Supply Hardware, which is now Outside Hardware, but that was one store that I went in probably 50 years ago. And the songs that they're playing there, meaning not during Christmas time, but just throughout the year, were the same songs they're still playing today. It's the same tapes.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no updated music. It's Elvis Presley and
It's like Project Gutenberg, right? You get the royalty-free stuff.
That's right.
Oh, I think
So,
it's perfectly fine if you just want background music. Why would you bother paying for it when there's free stuff that's probably just as good?
well, it makes good business sense,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Besides, I think stuff that old is probably like not offending anybody. If you played some modern stuff, then there'd be people, oh, I hate that stuff.
Yeah, but isn't that what they played in Waco, Texas to get the Branch Davidians out? They played songs over and over and over and over and
I
over
know,
again.
I know they did
Same
in Guantanamo
songs.
Bay. They would play Guantanamo Bay. They would play like rap music or something. I don't know what they thought the Branch Davidians would be hated by, but would be repelled by. But
I know that they played the Barney song and These Boots Are Made for Walking. I
oh,
think
those,
Nancy Sinatra.
I wouldn't have thought of those as like massively offensive songs.
If you hear them over and over and over again,
No, if I was the guys that made Barney, I would sue. Using my song, my harmless children's song as like an instrument of torture is harming my brand.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's pretty.
Anyway, I just think that's pretty interesting. You got to hand it to business being clever and
This happened
save.
in Clockwork Orange, right? They would like torture him by playing like Bach, and after that he couldn't listen to Bach, and he said, "No,
Yeah,
don't ruin that stuff for me."
same idea.
Yeah,
You're right. You're
it's
right.
it's a cold, cruel world. Well,
All
anyway,
right.
the weight loss drugs, the new miracle, everybody's talking about it. The bloom is coming off the rose, as you might expect. It turns out that Wegovy, one of these things that really makes people lose weight, um, they whoever wrote this headline says half of the people stop within a year, and it's much worse than that. Only 19% of people are still taking it after 1 year. Only 44% are still
So
taking
wait, let's go
it.
back, Sam.
This is
Wait,
just
what is?
these are just the new class of weight loss drugs. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They work. You would take an injection every week, and they're
Oh,
extremely effective. They change the way your stomach digests, so it takes longer to food to pass through your intestine, and this causes you to feel less hungry. So people eat less, they lose a lot, like 19% of their weight or more, but they have to keep taking the drug. And it has relatively minor side effects like some nausea and stuff, but that's not too bad. And it's a whole lot better than being fat. So every actors are all taking it, celebrities are taking it, everybody's been taking it because you really can take this drug and you really will lose weight and get skinny, which of course like half of Americans need to do. And so it's originally prescribed just for diabetics, but so many people wanted it, they keep running out of it. They can't make it fast enough. It's going to be the most
really?
valuable drug in the world. It comes from Novo Nordisk in Denmark, and it is changing the entire economy of Denmark. And it is projected to change the entire economy of the world. It's going to cut down fast food places. People won't want that stuff so much. It's going to greatly change diabetes medicine and all the other medical problems, heart disease and everything else. I mean, everyone is saying within like 5 years, half of the whole human race will be on this stuff. There have been huge stories about it over the last several years. But in practice, it sounds like the same old thing. All kinds of diets will work. You can lose weight for a while, but after a while, you quit being on the diet and it all comes back. That's what typically happens.
Uh,
And this stuff, people quit taking the drug and then it comes back. And they and this is another fact interesting. People that take like blood pressure medication, about half of them quit taking the pills. In general, doctors know this. When you prescribe people to take a drug, about half of them will just quit taking the drug because they just can't be bothered, or it's too much bother to get it or something, often when there's no major side effect. But anyway, this is pretty gruesome. Only 19% are still using it after 1 year because you do have to keep taking it forever. And there are some people concerned about what would be the long-term consequences of taking this stuff forever. However, the long-term consequences of being fat are pretty bad. So it's probably better than being fat. But uh, if people can't tolerate it long enough to keep taking it, then isn't really doing any good at all.
so, do you know how the drug works?
The main thing they say is that it works by slowing down the digestion of food in your stomach so you feel full. Um, but there are
So,
other evidences, there's two or three versions of it, and some of the effects seem to be still not understood.
so what happens to the energy in the food that you would normally absorb. Just because it's slowed down, you're still absorbing it.
That's right. I think you continue to digest it as always, but the fact is you don't feel as hungry. You're getting a signal that says, I'm already full.
That's
So
what I have
people,
to
so
think
when they
about.
test, people eat less food, they eat less meals, they cut out junk food, they don't get hungry as much. That's the effect. And the result is
Yeah,
they,
here, I had a professor in college, and he summed this up, I think, quite well. He said, look, if these weight loss drugs would work, it's like a stick of dynamite. You'd spontaneously combust because of all the energy that you're losing. In
well,
other words,
well,
if you take a drug
yeah.
that's going to convert all that fat,
Well, if it shrunk you down in a second, yes.
yes,
What it does
right.
is it makes you less hungry, so you will eat less and gradually lose the weight over like a year.
I see, I see. So this is an appetite suppressor.
Right. Just like meth, it used to be speed. You take speed, you lose weight. And then
Speed cigarettes too, right? Doesn't that
uh,
make you lose weight? A
there's a lot
little bit.
of people think so, but speed had a really big effect. Just like you can totally lose weight on speed. It's just there's side effects.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't
yeah,
want to keep
I
taking it.
see, I
And this
see.
seems to be the same kind of thing. You can totally lose weight on it, but you probably really can't just keep taking it forever, which is what you'd have to do.
Yeah. And then do you remember they had a molecule called I think olesterol that was going to be used, or Lay's used it in their potato chips, and it was a fat molecule
Oh,
that would not, as you ate it, it tasted like fat, so it tasted like potato chips, but the molecule was complex enough that it couldn't pass through your digestive system.
I'm thinking of the unsaturated fat. They put a lot of that highly processed food has this strange fat, which people, I think, first thought was good for you and then discovered was really bad for you.
Well, what they discovered was that it acted as a diuretic. And so,
That's not
yes, it was good for the first 2 hours, but then you
right.
had to get rid of it. And when
That's
you had to
true.
get rid of it, you had to go.
Yeah, but I mean, that's also true of a lot of these rapid weight loss treatments. All they're doing is pulling
Right.
water out of your body. And that's
Yeah.
this Ozempic stuff is better than that. You really are eating less. You really are losing weight in like a reasonable way, like a few pounds every week until you've lost a lot of weight after a year. And as long as you keep taking it, you stay skinny. So all the Hollywood people are totally on it, of course.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah.
but then they'll do it even if there's serious side effects because they have a professional need to do it. But
We'll see. The jury's out on this, huh?
well, sure, but they've done all sorts of horrible things like surgery and everything else in Hollywood to get skinny. It's their job, right? You've
Right.
got to get skinny and pretty, so you'll do something even dangerous to achieve it. But for the rest of us that would like to just actually be healthy, then
Yeah.
it's not worth doing unless it actually makes you healthy. And
Yeah.
maybe this stuff, as you would have feared, does as much harm as good. That's why the doctors say they only recommend it for people who have like diabetes. They really need to lose weight. And uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
having side effects would be acceptable. Just an average person that just wants to look prettier, the doctors don't really recommend that.
Yeah.
But people are
Well, it was discovered at a UCSF Med Center. I don't know if you're familiar with this, that the sugar industry, which is promoting the addition of sugar to all of our foods, and you go to a supermarket,
corn syrup.
yeah, it's estimated that 80% of the food there has additional sugar that's been added.
Yeah.
But there was in Colorado, there was a sugar company that went bankrupt, and they donated all their paperwork, all the records to, I think it's the University of Colorado. And a UCSF dentist went there after listening to a talk and found the records and realized that the entire sugar industry realized that there would be an epidemic in the next 20 years.
Oh,
It's the cigarette industry all over
that's
again.
just what I was thinking. And the oil industry, they all totally
Yep.
knew that they were doing something terrible and they conspired to cover it up and make fake science. And also, by the way, the people that make top ramen, the people that made top ramen bribed scientists to say that salt is good for you.
Really?
Just exactly the same way. Their product is full of salt. So they bribed people to say, oh, there's no problem with eating a lot of salt. It's fine. Just like the tobacco people paid people to say tobacco is good for you. And the oil industry people paid people to say, oh, there's no global warming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know, but there's an entire industry with a trade show that's been dubbed the Merchants of Doubt.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of the organization is to sell or to communicate to politicians lies, misinformation, disinformation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a large part of the Republican Party now and a smaller part of the Democratic Party, but it's there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
uh, this is one of the old-fashioned ways to control the population is by feeding them lies.
Right. Right. And now we have deep fakes.
And we
And
have, but
this,
in America, we moved it from the government to the corporation, the private sector, using the same techniques,
yeah. Yeah.
for better
Yeah.
or worse.
We'll see how this experiment turns out, won't we?
Yeah, we live through a lot of experiments. One that's amazing is pornography. I mean, actually, the internet had an explosion of pornography, and in the 70s, there are a bunch of people who said this will lead to a disaster, um, an epidemic of rape, no more kids, no more families. None of that seemed to happen. I think it's undeniable that people consume like 10 or 100 times as much pornography as they used to, and it seems to have no significant consequence, whereas there were very sensible reasons to think this would lead to something terrible in like 70s, but it didn't seem to be true.
Well, if I remember correctly, when the Berlin Wall came down and the East had opened up, the number one item that they wanted was food.
Oh, they didn't have enough food in East Germany?
As I recall, there
That's
wasn't enough food. It was food, I think it was clothing, and number three was pornography.
yeah, well, that sounds like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Those are our priorities.
I knew things were hard in East Germany. I didn't know they actually lacked food. That's pretty
I
harsh.
think it was food or Western food, I forgot, but it was a basic
I
need.
can believe Western food. They probably had just some basic staple food that wasn't much good that they had a lot of.
Yeah,
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 like
yeah.
potatoes or something. That's what Colbert always says, potatoes. Anyway, all right.
All right. Do you have another story or is this it for
I
today?
think that's it for this one. So I'll have another one on Friday.
Yep. And that'll be the last one of this year, won't it?
Well, I guess it will. It seems like we're running out of year. Yeah,
Yeah. Yep. We're there. And we've officially begun winter.
that's right.
Winter has begun.
Yeah, the solstice was just a few days ago. Yeah,
Yeah. And this is not the longest day of the year
the
because
shortest.
obviously all days are the same length. But we've
Oh,
just passed. I'm sorry, the shortest day of the year. It's
it is.
not the shortest.
What's the
It's
shortest?
the day with the least amount of sunlight.
Right, right. It was the shortest day of the year as observed from the Earth's surface.
Okay.
What matters. The sun was up for the minimum number of hours.
Right, right. That's another way of phrasing.
Yeah.
Same thing. All right.
Okay, I'm
So
stopping.
we'll see you on Friday.
Yeah.